think I'm there.
You're already closer.
Yeah, I've lost myself, Giselle. I can't see myself.
You don't need to see yourself.
Okay.
Oh, I pinned you.
Yeah, but I'm not on the screen, even though you pinned me, is what I'm saying.
Okay. Hold on. Can you see yourself now?
No. Do you want me to rejoin?
No.
Okay. I'll let you fiddle while I
Okay.
find my notes again.
See yourself now?
No. I've just disappeared somewhere.
You'll reappear again.
Hmm?
You'll reappear again.
Possibly. Anyway, today we're continuing our Proverbs study, and we're going to look at chapters 9 and 10. Verse 9, wisdom has built her house. She has set up its 7 pillars. She has prepared her meat and mixed her wine. She has also set her table. She has sent out her servants, and she calls from the highest point of the city. Wisdom and foolishness here and in this chapter are portrayed, shown as rival young women. And they're each preparing a feast and inviting people to it. Now, wisdom is a very responsible woman of character. But foolishness is a prostitute serving stolen food. So wisdom appeals to the mind, but foolishness appeals to the senses. And it's easier to excite the senses, but the joys of this foolishness is only temporary. We've talked about that before. By contrast, the satisfaction that comes from wisdom lasts forever. Now, the 7 pillars that are mentioned in verse 1, they're figurative. They're not actually 7 pillars, but they don't represent the 7 pillars of wisdom or the 7 principles of wisdom. In the Bible, the number 7 stands for completeness and perfection. So in this verse, the writer is basically saying that wisdom lacks nothing. It is complete. It is perfect. And this banquet has some similar parallels to the banquet that Jesus described in the parable found in Luke chapter 14, verses 15 to 24. You probably remember it, but I'm going to read it to you anyway. When one of those at the table with him heard this, he said to Jesus, "Blessed is the one who will eat at the feast in the kingdom of God." Jesus replied, "A certain man was preparing a great banquet and invited many guests. At the time of the banquet, he sent his servant to tell those who had been invited, 'Come, for everything's now ready.' But they all alike began to make excuses. Another said, the first said, 'I have just bought a field and I must go and see it. Please excuse me.' Another said, 'I have bought 5 yoke of oxen and I'm on my way to try them out. Please excuse me.' And still another said, 'I just got married, so I can't come.' The servant came back and reported this to his master. And then the owner of the house became angry and ordered his servant, 'Go out quickly into the streets and alleys of the town and bring in the poor, the crippled, the blind, and the lame.' 'Sir,' the servant said, What you ordered has been done, but there is still room." Then the master told his servant, "Go out to the roads and country lanes and compel them to come in, so that my house will be full. I tell you, not one of those who were invited will get a taste of my banquet." You see, many people may say to us, "Oh yes, I believe in God, I'm going to heaven." They intend to go, but they don't make it because they get sidetracked. They get sidetracked by other more important things. Nothing should become more important to us than our search for God. Let's look at verses 7 to 10. "Whoever corrects a mocker, invites insults. Whoever rebukes the wicked incurs abuse. Do not rebuke mockers, or they will hate you. Rebuke the wise, and they will love you. Instruct the wise, and they will be wiser still. Teach the righteous, and they will add to their learning. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding." And we sang that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom in that last song in Praise and Worship, the very first line, I think it was. So, are you a mocker or are you a wise person? You can tell by the way you respond to criticism. Instead of a response of a quick put down or a clever retort, listen to what's being said. Learn from your critics. That's the path to wisdom. But wisdom begins with knowing God, because he gives insight into living and because he created life. To know God isn't just to know the facts about him. To know God is to stand in awe of him and have a relationship with him. So if you really want to be wise, get to know God better and better. I'll give you a couple of verses that you can read. James 1, verse 5, and 2 Peter 1, verse 2. And if you read those, you'll pick up more advice on how to become wise. And then finally in this chapter, let's look at verse 17. "Stolen water is sweet. Food eaten in secret is delicious." You know, there is something very intoxicating about wickedness. One sin leads us to want some more. And simple behavior to a lot of people seems more exciting than the boring Christian life. And that's why so many people put aside all thoughts of wisdom's sumptuous banquet, all the things we can learn from God, the banquet that we can look forward to in heaven. And they put that to the side just so that they can eat the stolen food of foolishness, so that they can enjoy the wickedness, so that they can enjoy the things that they know are wrong. But don't be deceived. Sin is dangerous. So before you reach for that forbidden fruit, take a look at what happens to those who choose to eat it. The wicked will not enter the kingdom of God. The wicked will not have eternal life. if that's what you want, move away from sin. Sin is dangerous. So let's move on to chapter 10. Let's look at verse, I'll just talk a bit about it before we go to the first verse. Now this chapter, if you've got your Bibles open, should have the heading, the Proverbs of Solomon, something like that. And these are very short little couplets, 2 lines each, and they're what we usually recognise as Proverbs, aren't we? A rolling stone gathers no moss. That's a little proverb. And they cover a wide range of topics. The first part of these Proverbs was written by Solomon, and then the next 2 parts were written by other people, but Solomon collected them. And these Proverbs give us a practical wisdom for godly living at every stage of our life. That's a big thing to encompass. But practical wisdom for godly living at every stage of life. So let's start at verse 2. Ill-gotten treasures have no lasting value, but righteousness delivers from death. Some people bring unhappiness on themselves by choosing wrong living. Some people may crave a satisfaction. They may have an affair that destroys their chances of ever achieving happiness. God's principles for right living bring lasting happiness because they guide us into the long-term right behaviour in spite of our ever-changing feelings. Don't go with your feelings, go with your faith. So moving to verse 3, the Lord does not let the righteous go hungry, but he thwarts the craving of the wicked. Proverbs is full of verses like this that can contrast the good man with the wicked man. And they're not statements that are intended to apply to everyone and in every situation. And we've talked about that before. They're general statements. Some people do starve, and they could be righteous people. I'm sure Nelson knows quite a few people out in Africa who don't have much to eat, but they still believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. But these statements are really intended to communicate the general truth that the life of the person who seeks to serve God fares better in the long run than the life of the wicked person, because that leads to ruin. So they're not ironclad promises, but general truths. And also, a proverb like this assumes a just and sensitive government. How many countries these days can say that they have a just and sensitive government that cares for the poor and needy? Prince William has just started a project to get rid of all the homeless people. He's going to need a lot of backing. And will people be prepared to give what's needed for the poor and the needy? You see, a corrupt government thwarts the plans of good men and women. So let's move on to verses 4 and 5. Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth. He who gathers crops in summer is a prudent son, but he who sleeps during harvest is a disgraceful son. Do you know every day has 24 hours? I bet you knew that, really. But did you know that those 24 hours are filled with opportunities to grow, to serve, and to be productive? It's very easy to waste time. I know I can waste time easily if I let myself. And it's easy to let life slip from our grasp. Instead, let's refuse to be a lazy person, sleeping or frittering away the hours on your phone or reading a book that you could read later when you've finished all your work. Because those hours are meant for productive work. You could be studying the word. You could be spending time in prayer. You could be volunteering somewhere. You could be going hospital visiting. You could be going prison watching and working. You see, time is God's gift to us. He wants to see our time used well. He wants to see that we are working for him to alleviate the bad things in our world. So see time like that and seize the opportunities to live for him. And I'm only going to look at another 6 verses tonight, honestly. So verse 10 says, "Whoever winks maliciously causes grief, and a chattering fool comes to ruin." And I've said it before, sin is serious. It's dangerous and it's serious. We know that. But it's not just because of what it does to us and others. It's actually a personal rebellion against God. And if we're rebelling against God, we're not his children. We're not righteous enough to be called his children. We shouldn't be rebelling against God. We should be joining God in bringing people to him. A personal rebellion is serious. God doesn't take sin lightly, so we shouldn't either. If there's an area in our lives that we've been withholding from God's control, we must end our rebellion. Do you trust him 100%? If you don't, that's rebellion. Do you listen for his voice and do what he says? If not, that's rebellion. And God doesn't like it. Sometimes we minimize and rationalize our disobedience. And we put aside our excuses. Oh, I'm just going to go and do so-and-so, God, and then I'll get back to that. And you can guarantee that we don't, because something else comes up. So as it says in this verse, don't wink at sin. Confront it boldly and confess it to God, because sin is serious business. Moving on to verse 16. The wages of the righteous is life. The earnings of the wicked are sin and death. God supplies some people with the personal and financial abilities to respond to the needs of others. And if these people all realized why God had blessed them, instead of thinking they'd given themselves these abilities, they'd worked for these abilities, they'd worked for this finance. If they'd used all of those resources to do God's will, do you realise hunger and poverty would be wiped out? Yes, some of us can't afford to go and buy food for the poor and the needy. Some of us haven't got a spare room in the house to help out the poor and the needy. But we can do other things to help them. If you see somebody in the town who you know is poor or needy, take them out for a coffee and a cake. Think of them. And as regards those people that have got financial ability to do something with their money, those that haven't got that wealth, don't worry about God being opposed to it. God's not opposed to wealth, but he does expect us to work hard and to be a blessing to others in the best way that we can. And if we've got the wealth to do it in a monetary way, then we should do it. So work hard to be a blessing to others in the best way that you can and in the way God intended. So verse 18. Whoever conceals hatred with lying lips and spreads slander is a fool. By hating another person, we can become a liar and a fool. And if we try to conceal our hate, we end up lying. If we slander the other person, we're fools, we're idiots. The only way out is to admit our hateful feelings to God and ask him to change our hearts, to help us love instead of hate. When my first husband had an affair, we split up. We did eventually divorce. I hated the woman that he was having an affair with. Absolutely loathed her, absolutely detested her. I know I slandered her. When I saw her, I was always very pleasant to her, but deep within me, there was that absolute hate. And it wasn't for a while, but eventually I thought, this is stupid. I'm not with him anymore. He's married her. Why am I getting so het up about it? So I went to God and I asked for his forgiveness and I asked him to change my heart. I don't hate her. I'm not very fond of her, but she is a sister. So I'm always very, very pleasant when I see her. And I have started to pray for them both, that she will come to the Lord and that he will retake his promises to the Lord. And I didn't tell you that to boast. It wasn't worth boasting about because I was absolutely evil about it. But we need to be careful of what we're saying to other people. If we say something horrible, we're not serving God properly. So if you have hateful feelings towards anyone, ask God to change your heart. He will. He surely will. Let's move on to verse 20. The tongue of the righteous is choice silver, but the heart of the wicked is of little value. A lot of poor advice from someone is useless and worthless. And it's certainly worth less than a little good advice. It's easy to get people's opinions. People are always ready to give you an opinion about this or an opinion about that. And sometimes they give an opinion thinking it's what we want to hear, because they think it'll please us. But opinions aren't helpful. Opinions aren't advice. If we want good advice, we need to look for people who speak the truth, even when it hurts. We must think carefully about the people we go to for advice. I would have no problem at all going to Giselle for advice on something. But I wouldn't want to go to my daughter, because I know I wouldn't get godly advice from her yet. So consider what you expect to hear from your advisor. And if you are expecting the right thing and they provide you with the right thing, then you know you've got somebody good, somebody truthful, somebody that'll tell you how it is. And we all know Mama G does that. She tells it as it is. Verse 22 is about society, and it's a complete contrast to our society. The blessings of the Lord brings wealth without painful toil for it. See, our society measures personal worth by how much a person owns. We look at the material and not the spiritual. But our most valuable possession is our relationship to God. And that blessing that we receive because of that relationship isn't reserved for the rich. It's for anybody who calls on his name. And also, it isn't something that we've got to work hard for, because through all our efforts, whatever we do, we can't add anything to what God freely gives us. Our salvation is a free gift from God. We have our salvation through his grace and through his mercy, and nothing we can do or say will add anything to that. People who spend their lives enjoying material wealth will never experience the true happiness that comes from enjoying God. Remember that. If you're only enjoying your material wealth, you'll never experience the true happiness that comes from enjoying God. And then finally, verse 24. What the wicked dread will overtake them. What the righteous desire will be granted. You know, those who don't believe in God usually fear death. People will say, oh, I'm very frightened about dying. And if they don't know Jesus, then they've got good reason to be frightened of dying. But we as believers, we hope for eternal life and God's salvation. And those hopes will be rewarded. We've no need to fear death because we know that we are going to heaven and we're going to receive eternal life. And this verse offers us a choice. We can either have our fears or have our hopes come true. If we have our fears and they come true, then we get what we're deserving. If we put our trust in God and we have hope in him, we know that our hopes will come true. You make that choice by either rejecting God or by accepting him. And I pray to God that everyone here has accepted him. And if you haven't accepted him and you want to know how to accept him, then get in touch with us here at Pearls of Grace. All the details are below this video. Giselle and I will be more than happy to talk to you about accepting Jesus Christ as your Saviour and Lord. We'd be very happy to talk to you about any question you might have about your walk with God. So thank you all very much for listening.
So you're muted.
I'm not now.
Oh.
Thank you for coming tonight. We hope you've enjoyed it. We hope that you've learned something from it. And God willing, we shall see you next week. And in the meantime, good night and God bless.